You know, this channel was never meant to be a movie review channel, or really a massive review channel of any kind. Looking back, I think the last piece of media that I reviewed that wasn't a video game was, I think, Star Wars The Acolyte. Which I can best sum up that experience as pain. Yes, pretty much there and then I decided I didn't really want to do reviews of TV shows or movies anymore. Partly because I knew it meant a lot of my time was going to be soaked up by bad media, and another part of me thinking that, well, I wasn't really that good at it, and it just wasn't something I wanted to do. That said, that experience changed recently when I saw a new movie in theaters. But to begin, we're not going to start at that new movie. We're actually going to start at an old movie, and that movie is Star Wars. The original Star Wars, A New Hope, which I saw for the first time since I was, I think, maybe a teenager, 18, 19, in full that is. And one thought kept striking me as I was watching the movie, which was, they just don't make movies like this anymore. Because if you take Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and you condense it down to just Star Wars, the movie, ignoring all the other BS, ignoring the extended universes and the prequels and the sequels and the midquels, if you condense it all down to just one movie, Star Wars, an original sci-fi adventure movie, boy, it sure as hell is a good movie. It's an unreal, fun, exciting adventure experience. One that's still as good today as it was when it came out. Watching it now is like tapping into the magic of yesteryear. Not just a nostalgic experience of, hey, look, remember this? But a nostalgic experience of, it used to be that good. It used to be different. It used to be something magical. And we just don't have that kind of experience anymore. Not within the realms of sci-fi fantasy adventure. There were glimpses of this as well in the 2010s. In my opinion, the release of the original Guardians of the Galaxy was the closest to this. The only downside is that it gave us James Gunn and the entire James Gunnification of the MCU, where every Marvel movie felt like it had to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Part of the reason why I consider Guardians of the Galaxy to be both the best and worst thing to happen to Marvel. But after this experience, and with the decline of superhero movies in general, all of Hollywood media seems to be struggling. And in particular, genre films seem to be hit the hardest, mostly due to ballooning budgets and poorly written stories, with horrifically executed CGI, all leading to the culmination of disaster at the box office. The truth also is that legacy IPs, things that were created in the 70s, 80s, even going back to the 60s and 50s even, within the terms of genre media, this meaning sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes, etc., has all been milked pretty hard, leading some companies to go to more niche IPs from yesteryear in an attempt to garnish audience that already exists. And it's easy to write off these movies as simple cash grabs using existing IPs. I mean, that's pretty much what all of Marvel and DC feels like at this point. But could it be possible that a new movie has come out that actually pays homage to the old IP, doesn't do massive changes to the lore and story, and actually provides a fun and thrilling time for those both acquainted to the IP and those who are not? I think it is possible. And that's where we come to Masters of the Universe 2026. Now, I'll be honest with you. I know nothing about He-Man. I know nothing of the character, nor do I know of any of his sidekicks. I know of Skeletor, and of all the characters in the show, I've only ever heard the voice of Skeletor, and all the memes that have came out of that show. And I know that the show primarily existed, as many within the fandom say, as a cartoon to essentially sell toys, as pretty much all 80s and 90s cartoons existed to. I mean, you think me, a child of the 90s, knows anything or cares anything about the plot intricacies of Dragonflies? Yeah, Dragonflies. You remember Dragonflies? That's a deep childhood cut to you, isn't it? One has to wonder how many years away are we from getting those movies. But the truth about Masters of the Universe is that it's a fairly simple plot. There is a magical otherworldly realm known as Eternia. Adam is a young boy prince of this world. He's fairly scrawny and weak. His father has pretty much zero faith that it will be a strong warrior to protect the realm, which is what he wants his son to be, and he relies on the guidance and, protection, affection, whatever you want to call it, of Idris Elba's Master of Arms and his daughter Tila, which, I'm going to be fair, the most unrealistic thing about this film is that Camila Mendes, who plays the grown version of Tila, and is quite clearly some form of white Latin mix, is supposed to be the daughter of Darker Than Midnight Idris Elba. Although apparently I was informed by people who actually know the lore later that she is his adoptive daughter. At no point in the movie, by the way, do they actually say this. So it's a bit confusing to see. That said, while we're on the subject of actors, all the actors in this film do their job pretty well. Idris Elba, I think, does a really good job of Master of Arms. Camila Mendes does a good job of walking the tightrope line of being a tough, capable, strong female warrior within the movie without coming off as an insufferable girl boss. Nicholas I can't say his last name. We're going to call him Nick G. I think he actually did a very good job as He-Man, Adam. He's able to come off as sort of bumbling as Adam, but there's never a doubt that he isn't capable or genuinely wants to be a hero and do right as both the character of Adam and He-Man. To put it plainly, he plays the hero part well. But the actors who really steal the show are Alison Brie as Evil Lynn, the evil sorceress who really likes to flex her paralyzation powers, and oddly enough, Jared Leto as Skeletor. And while no, the voice of Skeletor does not sound like the same voice as in the cartoons, Leto still is able to flex his very campy wings while also doing a good job of making Skeletor not just some over-the-top, flamboyant figure, but also one quite menacing and capable of doing some pretty horrific stuff, all on the quest for power, because that's essentially what his goal is. You see, as a boy, Adam's world is invaded by Skeletor, and at the last minute, the sorceress, a woman whose job is literally to watch over and protect a sword imbued with the power of some gigantic, powerful god being, she, along with Adam's mother, send Adam and the sword into the realm of Earth. Along the way, Adam, because he's not very strong, isn't able to hold on to the sword and loses it. He lands at Earth as a 10-year-old boy, grows up, becomes a man, has a shitty job in HR, where they spend a good long time making fun of basically modern woke work life, while Adam desperately ignores his duties at his job while searching for the Sword of Power. Yes, that's what it's called. Eventually, he does find the sword, ends up back in Eternia via the help of Tila, helps rally the rebels against Skeletor, who, ruling Eternia, has turned it into a wasteland, and yes, eventually does defeat Skeletor. And I'm leaving out a whole bunch of nuanced details, because the truth is, I want you to experience them. I want you to actually go see this movie, because it is really quite a lot of fun. And it's deserving of your time and patronage at the theaters. Not a lot of movies these days are, especially those I would consider genre movies. But this one captures that sort of same magic as, say, the original Star Wars or original Guardians of the Galaxy. A fun adventure film that has a sort of magic to it, with a simple plot while also having deeper emotional dynamics to it. And I will say one thing people have been hesitant on this film about is the potential messaging. Mostly because actors get talking points and they just can't keep their mouths shut. But I'm here to tell you that the messaging in this film isn't exactly what you think it is or what they say it is. Adam, as a child, has very strong empathy and kindness and goodwill, even though he's not a very strong kid and probably wouldn't make a very capable warrior. Especially in the bounds of this very machismo masculine world. He is then transported into Earth, where he grows up into a society that openly promotes and supports kindness, empathy, understanding, negotiation, and diplomacy over methods of violence. A society of HR departments and DEI. One that you could say suppresses traditional masculinity. And while he is fairly successful there, it's made abundantly clear this is his personal hell. He hates it there. His entire time he spends as a quest to try to find a sword to go back home, to save his family, to save his world. And when he returns back home, even with the Sword of Power, he initially tries to use diplomacy and negotiation, empathetic tactics, to try to persuade his enemies that they don't need to fight. And what he finds is they don't really want to listen. And he's essentially forced to understand that he has to use the power of the sword to take on and fight enemies of pure evil. In this, I think the film does a very good job of saying that there needs to be balance. Because, as Sorceress later on in the film states, Adam was chosen as the next to inherit the power of the sword because of his empathy, his kindness, and generally his good nature, while the others that had the power before him only really knew it as brute strength. And this is why he is better than the others, more capable than the others. The idea here being that no, a society that functions only through empathy, negotiation, diplomacy, and really just feelings, never accepting conflict or violence, is one that simply cannot fully function or work, nor is one that sees every problem as a nail and the solution a hammer the most desirable society either. And the most capable leaders are able to flow between both forms of thinking. This is what makes Adam/He-Man the most capable ruler possible, and why he was chosen to have the power. He's able to use his diplomatic skills in some ways to help the cause of the people rebelling against Skeletor, while also being able to use his physical prowess to physically defeat the armies of Skeletor. But this is not the only moral message within the film. There's also a moral message that the power that Adam has been looking for was actually within himself the whole time, as he takes up the power from the vessel that is the sword into himself and becomes the vessel of the power himself. And it is because of his character that he's able to do this, that he was chosen to do this. A realization that it is our actual makeup and who we are as a person that defines our capabilities. This leads me to one of the negatives about the film, because not only is this a message in the film, they also have a message about fatherhood between Teela and Man-at-Arms, Adam and his father the King, Adam and Man-at-Arms, and they have several other minor messages within the film, and that is that the film kind of struggles with centering on one moral message. And I'd wish they had just sort of picked one and stuck with it, rather than trying to divvy up attention on what we should feel or take away from the movie in terms of deeper meaning. Another negative about the film is that it just goes on too long. There is a general sense that the movie feels like a long movie, but I think I have some understanding as to why this is. And actually, there's multiple facets as to why. The first is more of a physical reason, which is that the movie changes set pieces and scenes a lot. And when you change set pieces a lot in a movie, it feels like the movie has a lot of scenes to it. And when a movie has a lot of scenes to it, it just feels longer. Because when you break the movie down in your head, maybe later or ever, you break it down scene by scene, and you remember there was this scene, and there was this scene, and there was this scene. So many scenes and set changes leads to a sort of fatigue that gives you the perception that the movie is actually longer than it is. There's also the fact that the fight sequences in this film they are very well done, and they feel very punchy, very exciting actually. The problem is, with so many of them, that too makes the film kind of feel longer, especially when you comprise it with the fact that there were also a lot of scenes where there was no action at all. And there was actually time to let the story and movie breathe, to have poignant conversations about deeper things within the film, to get to know characters and their motivations, to understand more of the story and what's going on, which in today's ADHD environment of movie making can definitely make the movie seem longer. I mean, compare this to something like Mario Galaxy, which Mario Galaxy literally never stops. It's one action piece into the next action piece, with snippets of forgettable dialogue in between, fluffed out by nostalgia member berries, and at the end you're left with a feeling of, wow, I feel a lot happened in that movie, and yet it feels super short and like nothing happened. That's because the story was never allowed time to really breathe or even develop. There's no character movement within the film. In Masters of the Universe, it's the exact opposite. There's a ton of time for character development and story movement, while also containing a lot of action within the movie. The technical elements of this film are actually quite strong as well. Comparing the CGI of this film to, say, something like Ant-Man Quantumania, the difference is completely night and day. You can really tell that they had quality artists putting in quality hours on this film, to where every CGI element, as well as practical effects being used, work seamlessly together to create a good cinematic experience. And adding to that cinematic experience is also the music. A combination of original score, effective use of the old school theme of the TV show, and classic 1980s rock hits, all really helping to build towards the atmosphere of the film that lends to the otherworldliness of the adventure. At the end of the day, this film, like I said, is just not just nostalgic for the IP or for the era, but nostalgic for the magic of what genre adventure films used to be, of what things like Star Wars used to be in its isolation, something that we don't get anymore. I felt it worthy of a review, and I definitely feel that it's worthy of your time in theaters, because a film like this shouldn't flop, even though it looks like it's going to. It looks like it's on the same kind of track as something like Dungeons and Dragons that came out in recent years. Because Chris Pine's Dungeons and Dragons film is actually a very good, very entertaining genre action piece, with actually a very good moral message about fatherhood in it. And it's unfortunate that it flopped at the box office. And it would be unfortunate that this film, that I think is within the same kind of bounds story-wise, is also probably going to flop at the box office. I hope that it doesn't, though. I hope that word of mouth spreads about this film and people get a sort of general excitement about it and go out to see this movie, because, as I've said several times now, it really is worthy of your time. But hey, those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go and leave in the comments. If you liked this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, appreciate you watching all of it. And we'll talk to you again later.